Hello, this is Dr. Charmaine Gregory, and this is the Nocturnist Diary. I am coming to you unapologetically. I am indeed post-workout, and I basically got an inspiration. You know what they say about when you have endorphins coursing through your veins, your brain becomes alive and you start having increased creative thought and some strokes of brilliance, I suppose. But I'm not sure if this is indeed brilliance, but it just is a couple of things that I have been thinking about after hearing. First, I happen to be listening to a podcast, a very popular emergency medicine podcast called MCRIT, and it is hosted by a physician by the name of Scott Weingarten. And he happened to be interviewing a renowned specialist within the cognitive field called Anders Ericsson. And the topic was deliberate practice and how that affects us as human beings, but in particularly how it relates to mastery and how it relates to becoming excellent in your vocation, your life in general. And so I've been thinking about that a lot because, you know, the mantra that basically is pretty commonly thrown around. Hey, thanks for joining, Lisa. So basically, like, you know, the mantra that has been thrown around kind of became very popular by an author, the author of Outliers. His name is Maxwell Gladwell. Max Gladwell, I believe. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. But he wrote a book called Outliers. And in the book, he talks about, you know, achieving 10,000 hours of doing a thing. And that was really what allowed for you to become a master at that thing. And the research about this was basically done on musicians, like expert musicians. And, you know, the observations that were made originally did mention that number, but it really was, and this is what I got from it. This is my basic opinion on it. So hopefully I'm not butchering it and totally misconstruing what Anders Ericsson was conveying. But basically what he was saying was, yes, it could take 10,000 hours to achieve mastery, but it can also be a shorter period of time because it depends on deliberate practice. And so, you know, you could potentially be someone who is an expert at something without having had those 10,000 hours under your belt. You can become an expert not at 10,000 hours, but actually need much more time in order to become a master. So basically, the gist is that by practicing deliberately, so you are essentially doing the thing with a very mindful in a very mindful way. So you're doing the thing, and then you are analyzing what you have done. You're analyzing how you're doing it. You're analyzing any mistakes that you're making. So, you know, this could be a series of photographs of every step, like a time stop type of thing, or a time lapse type of thing, where you can see every step of the movement. If it's a movement that you're trying to master, you can have an external source that is monitoring you. So a coach, for example, can take a look at your golf swing and analyze every single portion of it, you know, basically bring in the physics, bring in all of the mechanics of it. And then with every time that you do it, you are keeping in mind, you have reviewed after, and you're keeping in mind those corrections, and then you are mindfully doing the thing again, you know, over and over, each time improving upon it. And that is really what gets you to mastery a whole lot more effectively than just a number of hours doing a thing. So the reason why I say all of this is something that definitely hits home for me, because as a physician, you know, we are, particularly for myself, in a field where we have to be so on top of all of the, the big things in emergency medicine. Like, we really have to be aware of what are the things that are going to injure my patient, or that are going to be deleterious to my patient within this acute time frame that I'm going to be seeing them. So, I have to be able to recognize those items in essentially every single field of medicine. So, an OB patient comes in, I need to know what are the things that are going to be deleterious to her. If a patient comes in and has a problem that is cardiology based, I have to know what are the dangerous rhythms, what are the things that are being manifested here. Is this patient in cardiogenic shock? Is this patient having a problem with dissociation of their electricity within their heart? Do they need an emergent intervention? So these are the things, and these are the skills that have to be essentially very sharp all the time. And we traditionally think that we are able to accomplish this mastery, essentially, or at least a baseline of this type of mastery, by completing a residency program. So, we go to med school, we go for 4 years, and then afterward, we do a residency, and basically, during the residency, depending on where you train, you would either train for an additional 3 years. For me, emergency medicine is 3 or 4 years in duration for the additional training. And so you do this, and hey, Nicole, thanks for joining. You do this, and then you are essentially all set to go out into the world and save lives. So, but, really what happens there is you have now a basis on which to work. And so then, as an attending, what happens is you actually are working and honing on being a master in your specialty. So you are working on not just the basic science behind what you're doing, but you are adapting to novel situations that more than likely you have never been faced with within residency. You are learning what your style is. Hey, Leonardo, thanks for joining. You're learning what your style is. You're learning more of the art of medicine. You are learning how to integrate all of these external items, like how to be good with customers, because essentially our patients are our customers. So how to be good with customers, how to have a smooth interface with all the members of the team, how to be a leader, how to be an advocate for your patient. So all of these other skills that are softer skills that are not necessarily taught when you're in training are things that you have to also become masters of. And the neat thing is that, we all naturally become this way, and we just don't always think about how it actually happens. And it's not really the magic number of the 10,000 hours, which is crazy. Like, it just totally blew my mind when I was hearing and reading about this. Hey, Danielle, thanks for joining. Hey, how's it going? And so, that totally blew my mind, because I just basically assumed that, you go to med school, you go to residency, you come out, and then that's it. It's like magic. Everything is super smooth, and that's not the case. It is a constant learning experience. Every single night that I go into work, I learn something. And I have to have that mindset every single night that I am going in here to serve to the very best of my ability. And I'm also going in here to learn, to grow, to deliberately practice becoming better at this craft. And, I just had a really interesting conversation with one of our residents the other night, because I was thinking about this, because we were, at the end of every shift, we always do a recap, and we basically kind of troubleshoot, what are some items that we could have done differently? How do you think things could have run more smoothly? How do you think the shift went overall? And, we're just kind of going through and dissecting that whole experience of the night, and it just made me think about this entity called deliberate practice. And, it is just so important, and so important for us to think about this. And now I'm talking to the residents. It's so important for us to think about this when we are in training, because we would get so much more out of the training process if we were thinking in this way. So looking at the feedback that you're getting, because unfortunately when you get out of training, you don't really get as much feedback as you do when you are in training. And a lot of times the feedback is not always constructive, because you get you basically get negative feedback if there's any feedback to be gotten, which is unfortunate, and we have to be better about that as a field of medicine. But you don't get that person observing you, which is really what makes all the difference. Hey Amy, thanks for joining. Hey Val, thanks for joining. Having that person observing you and actually giving you constructive feedback so how you can be different the next time is really what makes the ultimate difference with deliberate practice. So I'm sorry, I have been very long-winded with this, but I just wanted to get on and talk about what was on my heart, because I literally got done with the workout and I said, oh my gosh, I have to share my thoughts on deliberate practice, because I feel like this is something that can be utilized across the board, not just in emergency medicine or in accounting or in pharmacy, or it can be in anything, any vocation, any passion, anything that you are desiring to become better at, that you're desiring to be a master at. And it just is a very effective way of accomplishing that. And so bringing it back to my workout, of course you're not talking about fitness, because that's what I do. I was just thinking about that today in my workout. I was literally thinking, I am doing these movements, I am working on my endurance, I am working on my agility, and I am videotaping it so I can look back at the video and see how effective were my movements and how can I improve it next time. So just doing that simple type of deliberate practice can make all the difference in even some everyday things like your workout. So you can literally, you can literally become a master at your wellness, your self-care, by doing that, by being mindful about what you're doing to engage your body, to engage your mind, to engage your heart to be the best that you can possibly be. So I shall end my tirade there, and I hope that you got something out of this little tirade. But the main points are that there is an entity called deliberate practice, and basically what it is you are doing an action, being mindful about it prior to the action, during the action, and after the action. And that mindfulness and correction and feedback can be obtained either by having documentation of that experience, that movement, whatever it is, that act, via photograph, videotape, or having an external person like a coach or a mentor observing you and providing you with that feedback. And then the final piece is actually implementing it the next time that you practice deliberately. So hopefully that is helpful to you. Hopefully you will think of something that you're passionate about, that you want to practice deliberately so that you can become a master. And the awesome news is that this can be accomplished well before 10,000 hours if you do deliberate practice effectively. So I hope that was helpful to you. If it was, please feel free to comment below and also share this broadcast with a friend. Be greatly appreciated. This is Dr. Charmaine Gregory, and this is the Nocturnist Diary. And I hope that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.